step into arena, I hear that. I hear the chant of one more match, one more match. And I shall respect. Is that what you're saying? Yes. Yeah, that's what I said. It's about respect. You heard them. Year after year for nearly a decade. One more match, one more match. For nearly a decade, half that locker room, every WrestleMania, beating down my door, begging for a dream match with HBK. Every year, turning down literally millions and millions of dollars for one more match. So yeah, yes, yeah. I've stayed retired out of respect. Respect for The Undertaker.
Hey everyone, Good Old JM here with your JM Report, coming to you from CSB Studios in Tampa, Florida, the birthplace of pro wrestling. And we got quite a few things to cover here. And as you heard just now, again, Shawn Micheals sticking to his guns about staying retired. And to put it more bluntly, at least from his point of view, out of respect for The Undertaker, that he doesn't say it there, but we heard it many times before since then. Since that WrestleMania 26 loss where it was career versus streak, that Shawn Micheals wanted to be that one guy to stay retired. Once he was retired, he's staying retired, unlike guys from Mick Foley or Ric Flair and Terry Funk, who's in between retirement and still going right now. But Shawn Micheals wanted to be that one guy. But of course, it's always overshadowed with the never say never persona. And not that it's been confirmed, not that it's been at least offered, not even issued, at least not from Shawn Micheals himself, nor the WWE. But rumors are swirling at this time about a possible coming out of retirement match for Shawn Micheals. Now, if I haven't said it before, I'll say it here. I'll believe it when I see it, personally. Now, I always report stories that are more than 50% are rumors or speculation. Now, I'm a kind of, I guess the best way to describe myself when it comes to pro wrestling as a old school kind of fan, where there was a time, at least in my day, the internet didn't exist. Hell, there weren't even podcasts. All you had were maybe, radio shows out in local areas that not everyone got to hear for a long time. And I found this out years after the fact, especially just before Attitude Era. Out in Long Island, there was a radio show, and it reached public services and through the AM waves, but I was never aware of it. And of course, this covered the Attitude Era and post Attitude Era. I believe they moved on to internet radio. But just imagine, had we all been informed of storylines or rumors ahead of time back then, how maybe the fans' perspective could have been a little bit different. But again, that's neither here or there. But as far as me being an old school kind of a fan, is I still like to be surprised or shocked. And they haven't really done much of that. They being WWE, as that was the only promotion I grew up with at the time before WCW or the AWA, even for a short period, the the WCCW were brought to my attention. But by then there was cable access like ESPN and the Sports Channel and who else covered them? MSG, I believe. No, MSG covered the ECW, late night, for those who remember in the Northeast area back in the mid 90s to late 90s. So what's the point here? Well, we do have rumors, and Again, I'm sticking. I'll always stick to my guns when it comes to this rumor, no matter how credible it is or how much fact and detail are behind it. But I'll believe it when I see it. That the case of Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement for one more match, as the fans chanted a couple of weeks ago when he was confronted by The Undertaker about his match with Triple H at the Super Showdown in Australia coming up in October. So, according to the latest issue of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Shawn Michaels is confirmed to be coming out of retirement with Triple H to team up with Triple H against The Undertaker at Kane at the next Saudi Arabian Spectacular, which is WWE Crown Jewel. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez were speculating that with the quote-unquote bought show economics of WWE Saudi Arabian deal, Michaels could be making between $1 to $2 million for this one match. Shawn Michaels will be appearing on Monday Night Raw's go-home show for the Super Showdown, which will likely serve as the setup for his eventual return to the ring at WWE Crown Jewel, which has been heavily reported for quite some time now. And ever since the Greatest Royal Rumble event back in, April, where Braun Strowman won the 50-man Greatest Royal Rumble match, got the trophy, got the championship belt, which I'm pretty sure ended up staying in Saudi Arabia, so it's not like Braun Strowman needed to carry that around, either championship. So we knew then that the Saudi Arabian deal was going to be multi-year, still unclear as to how many, millions of dollars, again, still unclear as to how many. Basically, Saudi Arabia and this prince, can't remember his name right now, but basically wanted the WWE to come to Saudi Arabia and put on some shows, as they did so far, one down and several to go. And as it stands right now, to do at least multi-show year-round moving forward. And they're going to have their second one coming up with the Crown Jewel. Now, back to Shawn Michaels here. It's been, and I've only got wind of this maybe midweek, that this was even a possibility. And looking at some little details, because the last time we really saw Shawn Michaels in the ring be active was probably back at WrestleMania. Which one was that? What number? But it was the one in Dallas when Mick Foley and Stone Cold Steve Austin came out to confront the, what were they called? The United Nations or the Allied Nations or whatever they were. Rusev, Cesaro, Alberto Del Rio. There was someone else. Might have been Jinder. Was it Jinder? Well, it was four guys. Yeah, I guess autism and me becoming senile is becoming more and more clear here in my day and age. But Shawn came out in full gear, his old camouflage DX pants, and he looked in great shape. But more like, okay, well, I'm not in the gym every day, but I'm still staying in good shape. So I guess he's probably keeping up with his cardio and his diet ritual. Easy for me to say. But fast forward to a couple of weeks ago on Monday Night Raw, where he was announced ahead of time to put in his predictions and his opinion, keeping the kayfabe, between the match between Undertaker and Triple H for a Super Showdown. And it's on YouTube. You go back and compare the two appearances. Shawn looked like he bulked up a little bit more. Not heavy set like a Scott Steiner. No, I'm not saying that, but clearly has been hitting the gym a lot. Now, maybe that was a clear indication that maybe he's setting for something up, or just, man, I haven't hit the gym in a while, and decided to lift the weights again, and here I am. Especially for someone his age, was in his mid 50s, I believe, maybe late 50s. He looks amazing, and it's not easy to do nowadays, especially, trust me, because I'm getting there myself. And only recently have I been really dedicating more time at the gym and trying to be as healthy as possible, especially at this point in time in my life moving forward. And again, I believe that's one detailed sign that there's a possibility. And that's all I'm going to say. That's as far as I'll take it. But again, I believe when I see it, that Shawn has been already, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, talked into coming back out of retirement for at least one more match. Now, going back to SummerSlam '02, even then was supposed to be a one-off. If you follow the stories, at least from Bruce Pritchard's Something to Wrestle With, and even Shawn himself, there were at least 2 WWE documentary videos to come out based on Shawn Michaels, and himself even said, maybe not in the words, it was supposed to be a one-off, but the plan clearly was that was going to be his one match and one and only match. But Shawn feeling that little pro wrestling itch again to get back into it, do a little more. It's like, all right, so we expanded a little bit for the rest of the year. Then Survivor Series happened with their first ever Elimination Chamber match, which I was there for, by the way, at Madison Square Garden. I got to say, the crowd was really into it. And he ended up winning the world title. So I was like, okay. And it was around this time where slowly but surely getting into more of these behind-the-scenes stories of what's really going on, because at that point I was still the wrestling fan that didn't want to get into rumors and all that stuff, or I heard this or I read that, and that it was supposed to be a short-term deal with Shawn Michaels. But next thing you know, you go from SummerSlam '02 all the way to WrestleMania 26, and that's, about 4 years, give or take? And that's quite a run. So I'm not saying that's what's going to happen this time. If Shawn does come out of retirement and have his one more match, in a tag match apparently, we don't know as far as details go about what kind of match it's going to be, because we don't know Shawn's limitations. You got Undertaker again, who doesn't appear as much, but being back at the Saudi Arabian, neck of the woods. And this is what they being the people to put up the money, like, well, this is what we want to see. It's your job, WWE, to produce. That being The Undertaker. That being Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Kane. If think about it, I'm pretty sure Saudi Arabia and the Prince in particular are all up to date of what's been going on, but they're obviously diehard old school fans, and realizing that, unlike the previous rundown that they thought of, bring in Yokozuna, bring in the Ultimate Warrior, that's going to be kind of difficult because they're no longer with us. And that was the reported story back then when they were putting together the greatest Royal Rumble. I don't know who it was that broke the news to them about those 2 Hall of Famers in particular not available. So like, okay, so who is left from that time era? Well, maybe not Kane necessarily, but if they're looking at from the Attitude Era point of view, then yeah, this is what we have left. Basically, yeah, there might be another handful of names, but they're off doing their own things. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, but Mick Foley's still around. But I really doubt they want to put him back in the match. That's just my take on it. Even though he looks great, we saw him this past Monday last week on Raw, the previous week, confronting Elias before he was announcing himself for that Sunday's Hell in a Cell match between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman for the Universal title. And Foley looked great. Physically looked great. He finally had his hip replacement surgery and lost a ton of weight thanks to DDP yoga. And at least of now, hasn't been given a second thought whether or not Foley will be even consider getting back into the ring. But time will tell. But for this, Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement, and if the reports, at least Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez reports, are anywhere near fact of him making anywhere from $1 to $2 million from just one match, I guess right now WWE is this it's such a huge commodity, probably more than a lot of fans give him credit for, between the Saudi Arabian multi-year deal that again is still unknown as to what number it is, and a year from now, well, a little bit more than a year from now, the Fox deal will go through, and everyone knows that's worth $1 billion. Billion with a B, folks. So between these 2 entities, Fox and Saudi Arabia, That's a lot of money flowing around. So I'm not saying that Shawn Michaels was sat in the office somewhere in Titan Towers in Connecticut, Hartford, and across the way was maybe Vince and maybe Triple H, other officials, and just like, here, Shawn, here's a suitcase, and just start pulling out all these wrapped bills, $100 bills, and started stacking them up in front of Shawn. This could all be yours if you just say yes. I don't see anyone putting Shawn Michaels through that ordeal. Maybe I'm close to it. Who knows? But it's really. I mean, let's face it. It's really hard to turn down that kind of money. And you heard it too. He's like literally turned down millions and millions of dollars. So what was different this time around? What will be the question I would ask? So you were offered allegedly millions of dollars. You turn it down because you wanted to stick to your guns to stay retired. You want to be that one guy. Well, at the end of the day, Shawn Michaels, if this actually goes through, you'll be that one guy who stuck to it long enough only to break and go back against your own word of staying retired. And that's probably that one entity, one bug, I guess, in pro wrestling that you can't stay retired. You just can't, as much as you try. And years could go by. I mean, we've seen stories like that. Years can go by. But somehow, even if you're behind the scenes or an agent or part of the creative team, you're still involved. But sooner or later, the inside the ring, what's the best way to describe it? You know, that little deep down inside, that part of you that misses being inside the ring, regardless of how old you are. You just want to do it again. Terry Funk's still doing it. Flair did it after he supposedly retired back in WrestleMania 24, only to keep going a few years more in Impact. And then it was part of the Hulkamania tour, ironically also in Australia. And I think by then he realized, Flair did, that, it's time for me to wind down. And recently got remarried, 5th time's the charm, I guess. And it's going to try still living the lifestyle and profiling from home. I believe Flair does have that Legends deal with the WWE, so he's good. But time will tell. Let's just stick to, or let's pay attention moving forward between the next few episodes of Raw, which has had the ratings decline down to 2.1, I believe it was this week. Not much, but that's still 2.1 million people watching. And that's more than enough, I guess, in the eyes of USA and WWE, which made clear on several occasions that our ratings don't matter anymore, which is really bullshit. But again, 2.1 million people watching, it's still enough to draw the attention of advertising and commercials. So they're doing quite well. I just hope whatever plans they have for Shawn Michaels will be limited at best. The idea is that is not that Shawn is limited in the ring, but whatever plans they have between Kane and Undertaker, who knows what kind of approach they're going to take. But either way, I just hope you don't put anyone in harm's way. I know Triple H can still go. I know Taker can still go. Of the four mentioned, Shawn has been the one really out of action for, as he put, nearly a decade. That's quite a long time. And Kane, I guess Mayor Kane, I mean, in all fairness, his office, his mayor's office is closed on weekends, as many, if not all, government officials' office buildings are closed on weekends and, of course, holidays. So I guess it's going to fit into his schedule, and I would assume be back on time to reopen Monday morning. I don't know what is as far as what kind of deal they've worked out between and WWE and, of course, Knoxville schedule. But it's possible. I mean, yeah, we go back to SummerSlam, what was it, 98? Jesse Ventura was governor of Minnesota, and he came out that one Sunday night, and he got a lot of flack for it. I mean, he really got a lot of people that, obviously the ones that were against him, not wanting to see him in office to begin with, but the haters, I guess is the best way to describe them. Like, well, look at him. He's performing at SummerSlam this year and basically ignoring or flat out just forgetting about his day job, which is unfair. I mean, again, it's the weekend. Officials can do whatever they want, as we've seen. And he's just that one night. And he was literally back to work the next day, which was Monday, and reopened. I'm just trying to see. I think it's November 2nd. November 2nd for Crown Jewel. And that would be the day of this alleged tag team match. November 2nd. Is that? Let me go into my little PC. That's a Friday. So that's a Friday. I guess you work half a day and fly out to Saudi Arabia, which is, I believe, is about a 15-hour flight, maybe more, maybe 20 hours. But yeah, I think Kane's going to give himself a 3-day weekend by the end of it, and hopefully be back on time for reopening on Monday, because that's a lot of work itself, running a mayor's job. So giving Kane the benefit of the doubt to take time off from his responsibilities today as a mayor and go back to his passion, his original passion of being a pro wrestler, and multitask, I guess. Multitask, kind of like what I'm doing now with this squeaky ass chair. Let me see if I can change it out. That's better. So, I mean, it's not completely squeaky-less, if that makes sense. But it's the less squeaking one in the room right now, so it's kind of distracting. Moving on. In another big story that broke this week, this past Wednesday, matter of fact, in one of the longest running lawsuits that WWE has been going through in recent years. If any of you remember the concussion, try that again. The concussion lawsuit. I know it wasn't given a proper name, but that's what it was. So according to PW Insider, this past Wednesday, the lawsuit brought against WWE in relation to them providing performers with the lack of protection relating to CTE and concussion-related injuries have been dismissed. That's right. The judge dropped it. The 39-page ruling was issued by Judge Vanessa L. Bryant, where she made the decision to throw out the lawsuit, citing that many of the claims were filed after the state limitations expired. And that little detail was mentioned along or throughout the lawsuit, and many felt like, well, if that's the case, then they being the former WWE superstars that were brought together, really have no legs to stand on. And if you're a big WWE supporter, you should be grateful and thankful that was in play this whole time and brought up way after the fact. And even so, putting that ruling aside, putting that law to the side, I mean, you always hear the phrase, it's not ballet, and it's true. You're aware of what you're in for, and injuries do occur. Just ask Sid Vicious, ask Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bret Hart. Now, those are 3 examples, 2 of which were basically done to them, but not intentionally. You can look at the Bret Hart situation where he got kicked in the head by Goldberg at, where was that? Slamboree? No, Starrcade. And Goldberg being, and even Rob Thompson. No, I'm sorry, Conrad Thompson. Rob, who does Rob? Conrad Thompson, when he covered this with Tony Schiavone, made it clear that he wasn't a fan of Goldberg then, at that time period, and was even more pissed off that Goldberg was basically being negligent and wasn't performing at the level he should have at that point in time in his career, where, you hold back, you pull your punches, or in this case, you pull your kicks. Can't argue too much there, really. And had Goldberg had not done that, Bret Hart definitely would have been around a little bit longer in his career. But point being, he suffered a major concussion, which would play a factor into his life years later from having, I believe, more than one stroke. And I'm sure it's not related, but Bret Hart actually suffered seizures. I'm not a doctor, folks, but Bret Hart would share these stories way after the fact it happened, and still has some side effects to this day. With the Stone Cold Steve Austin incident, well, we know what happened there with the power driver from Owen Hart that ended up shortening Austin's career. Sid Vicious, many reports suggested that he was pressured into adding more aerial assault maneuvers from the higher-ups and creative. So jumping off the second rope with a big boot and landing incorrectly. And he's a big man. I met Sid Vicious. He is everything the 6'9" that he is. Others who were 6'8", 6'10", I've met as well, somehow shrunk throughout the years. And it's not all connected to, old age as it happens. But my other explanation that was given is that, all these guys on many occasions will fall on their spine, their tailbone. And that compresses the spine and it shortens you or doesn't allow you to stand up straight or upright any longer long term. And okay, I could kind of see that. But at that point in time, when was the WCW Sin? It was a 4 corners match. And it was Scott Steiner, Jeff Jarrett, and Sid with a 4th participant surprise that ended up being Road Warrior Animal. They had to cut the match short, and I believe Scott Steiner got the pin. We didn't see it live, but when they cut back, because the limousine pulled up and it was Animal, I think he was wearing a straight jacket and a hockey mask. And the spot with Sid breaking his leg had already happened, and we got back. We see Sid's leg. He's laying there, and he's holding his leg, looking towards it, and trying to tell the referee about it. And it's like, what's wrong with his leg? It's all crooked. And they show the actual footage the next night on Nitro. And the point of all the story is accidents happen in the ring. They really do. And hell, I've known of guys that have been seriously injured during training. So as far as this lawsuit goes, and the main focus is that there was a lack of protection. And a lot of these guys, the former WWE superstars, there was a time where CTE, it wasn't studied enough. I don't want to say it wasn't a thing. It was. A concussion was always a long-term thing. Just look at any kind of full contact sports like football. That's always been an issue. But as far as long-term effects, and everyone has different ones, though they are and can be very similar. During during a lot of these guys' run, it wasn't aware of CTE. But they tried, I'll give them that. And the representative of the ex-superstars were also reprimanded by the judge for repeatedly failing to comply with the court rules, and it has since then been ordered to pay WWE's legal fees. This is certainly not the first lawsuit of its kind to be filed against the WWE, and will likely not be the last. But in this particular case, the law was on their side, they being WWE. And again, they tried. So we'll see in the future if maybe an appeal. I doubt it. You could try, but that'll be just more waste of time and money. So they got to find other ways to get their money back. I say work with WWE. I mean, don't want to go way off topic here, but medical coverage is expensive right now. No matter what kind of tier you have, what kind of package you pick out, but just count your losses, I guess. I mean, what's more important, your health, your pride? When in some cases, what's really going to end up being suffering is your income. And so many people can only survive on retirement funds or Social Security. Not that all or any of these former superstars have been, but some of them can't work at all. In the case of accepting independent promotion bookings, you just got out of a concussion lawsuit. Why the hell would you want to get back in the ring again? That would just support more and more of the reason why this thing was dropped. So now, if you go by the logic that Bruce Pritchard has been putting out there through his podcast, Something to Wrestle With, or Something to Wrestle With. I keep confusing it with Something Else to Wrestle With, that apparently WWE Network is no longer going to air. But oh well. But one of Bruce Pritchard's stories that he always puts out there when it comes to WWE and Vince McMahon, that they're willing to forgive for the sake of working together again and doing business. So if I am any of these superstars that were filing lawsuit against WWE, I would consider that. I really would. And maybe one day, there were about 60 names at one point, maybe more. And eventually the name shrunk throughout time because this lawsuit ran for a few years, and there were a couple of names that unfortunately passed away. Two guys for sure that were part of this lawsuit was Demolition, Axe, and Smash. And I believe it was 2009, maybe 2010. It was at a Wizard World Con in New York City, and I met them, Demolition, took pictures and got some autographs. And I asked them, hey guys, what's going on with this Hall of Fame? You guys should have been in. And obviously the lawsuit didn't start then. I don't know what the story was, why they weren't at least considered. But as stories go, basically anyone that worked with WWE that could have been at least suggested to be in their Hall of Fame, but was part of this lawsuit, what sense would it make? I mean, you're suing me, but I'm going to put you in my Hall of Fame anyway. So I hope now with this lawsuit behind them, everybody, maybe not anytime soon, but eventually cooler heads prevail, and more than likely will be the superstar that was suing, or maybe Vince, if you believe, again, Bruce Pritchard's logic, always forgiven in time. Like, hey, pal, remember, here comes the Axe and the Smasher. How about you guys, come to Hall of Fame? They're long overdue among many other people. And I hope this really goes through. One definite rumor killer that I may mention here last time, that Vince McMahon was going to have a meeting, supposedly, with officials at Madison Square Garden. So apparently, that's all it was, just a rumor. And there was no substance whatsoever to the rumors of Vince McMahon meeting with Madison Square Garden officials regarding an effort to nix the Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling's G1 Supercard show on WrestleMania weekend. According to their report, Vince McMahon hasn't even met or contacted officials about the matter. Their report, by the way, from the Wrestling Observer. And had this happened, had this meeting happen, and the main idea would have been Vince trying to pull the plug for the Supercard show, biggest douche move ever. But we made it this far since its initial announcement, and that the arena has been sold out way months in advance, similar to All In. Now you're just messing with people's money and livelihood. And for someone who, I welcome competition, but you're pulling plugs, you're doing what you used to do back in the day, basically buying out other superstars, before their initial company that they worked with either fell under on their own or you bought them out. How's that competing? Is my question. I wonder if that was brought up during one of the something to wrestle with. I don't care what you call it. According to Wrestling Inc., Impact Wrestling reached out to former superstar Low Ki to see if he'd return to their company, and the plan was to use the veteran at their New York events next month. But that won't be happening that's because Low Ki has declined the offer from Impact, stating that his loyalty is with MLW, where he is their current heavyweight champion, and MLW wrestlers aren't forbidden from appearing on Impact, which is true. They go back and forth as independent wrestling should be and is. But recently, several wrestlers have worked with both promotions, including Jimmy Havoc and Sami Callihan. The duo faced each other during the Impact Wrestling versus the UK event earlier this month, which saw Sami Callihan go over. And they'll face off again at MLW's Fury Road on October 4th. Quite interesting because I remember Low Ki. He probably won't remember me, but we did have some chats in the very early 2000s. I would say, the promotion has gone through so many changes and different names, but at one point it was called UCW, Ultimate Championship Wrestling, out of Queens, New York. Now I believe it's ICW. And for those who are fans of the Wrestling Universe or the WrestlingUniverseOnline.com, you know what I'm talking about, where the days of Low Ki and Xavier, and they fought tooth and nail basically at every show for their World Heavyweight title. And I do remember Low Ki. I was there when he finally defeated Xavier to win the championship, and he gave this heartwarming speech of working so hard and moving up in the ranks. Hopefully, if the offer's still on the table, Low Ki can change his mind. Phil Brooks, or CM Punk as many of us get to know him, is adding already to his impressive resume outside the wrestling ring or the octagon, depending how you want to look at it. This according to the Deadline.com news report that filming has wrapped on his horror movie of Girl on the Third Floor, where he plays Don Couch, a husband that tries to fix up an old house to make up for his past transgressions. And according a little more detail to the plot, as he's doing this, he comes across quite a few disturbing imagery and disturbances, for lack of a better term. So again, it's a horror movie. Also to note, his wife AJ Lee does have a role as well. I'm curious to see this movie. No release date, as obviously it's still in post-production, and also believe it's an independent movie, so it can really come out anytime now. So keep your eye out from that. Girl on the Third Floor, CM Punk and AJ Lee. Now this story that is very interesting in more ways than one. Now, giving credit where it's due, when it comes to the WWE Network putting out the specific documentaries, and they do a hell of a job, especially recently where it was the Hardy Boys, and they go really into detail with recent events, even run-ins with the law. They've had actual footage from the old TNA run that was used by permission. Of course, they had to pay for it, but it was still jaw-dropping to even see anything outside WWN or Shimmer or Shine, Ring of Honor at times, but one of your main competitors at the time, TNA or Impact, still shocking. But a new WWE Network documentary is set to air that chronicles the past struggles that Paige faced prior to her comeback and early retirement. Speaking about the upcoming documentary to the Daily Star, Paige said that she was very open with the Paige sex tape that was unfortunately leaked and the failing of drug test during her recording. The recording to the Daily Star, that is, not the sex tape. So get your mind out of the gutter. Again, all of this coming from the Daily Star. So the report will go on to say that she has learned from her mistakes and wants her fans to learn from those mistakes as well. She also, Paige that is, touched on her sudden retirement and revealed that former superstar Edge helped her come to grips with it and grips with no longer performing in the ring, and got some advice from him, basically saying, I promise you, after you make this retirement speech, you will have so much weight off your shoulders, you will feel so much better. Well, I'm sure most of us haven't contemplated retirement, let alone have a speech for it ready, especially at the drop of a dime, and say, hey, listen, go out there, you'll have your time, you'll have your moment. And I'm sure she spoke from the heart, and all of this was not scripted when Paige did give her heartwarming speech. I thought it was a nice touch and nod where the other members of Absolution embraced her before she even put a word out. I guess they already knew what was going to happen, and basically left her in the ring all by herself. They didn't even stick around ringside. No, they went to the back. It was all Paige that moment. And here's hoping that there is some kind of possibility that Paige can return. She's still way too young to retire, although she still has a lot of involvement as far as an on-air talent. Of course, she's allowed to spend more time at home, as she doesn't always travel to these house shows, or not all the. Well, obviously, she wasn't at the Greatest Royal Rumble. More than likely, she will not be at WWE. I already forgot the name of the damn thing, and it's coming up in a couple of months, in a few weeks, actually. A crowning jewel. Good Lord. But more than likely to be there for Super Showdown. Basically, as a limited on-air role as the GM of SmackDown. But I'm like many others, hoping that she can make that comeback. And here's a good one. Now, this superstar, this talent should be a much more hotter commodity than she is right now. But about a year spent in basically all corners of the pro wrestling world. She had a championship run after Impact Wrestling Slammiversary, after wrestling at All In, appearance on the Mae Young Classic. Madison Rayne announced during her interview with Taz's podcast this week that she has signed with ROH to be a part of their Women of Honor brand. So, assuming that Ring of Honor was keeping tabs on what I just mentioned, and that Madison Rayne, or Ashley Rayne in the Mae Young Classic, has indeed become a hot commodity, and I'm not aware of any contracts offered from WWE or to be a part of NXT in order for her to stay around a little longer. But a lot of those competitors, especially the ones that get eliminated early in the tournament, either they're freelancing or they just have that one-off deal. You made your appearance, so thanks for coming. But Madison Rayne, yeah, she's definitely been improving a lot throughout the years. And I say she's going to be a really big deal shortly. And once she makes this great impact, no pun intended, in the Winner of Honor brand, and more than likely win their championship, I say, yeah, WWE definitely let this one slip through the fingers. And another big story of the week, as it's been teased, it's been mentioned, it's been waiting on this, waiting on them. But Rey Mysterio Jr. has finally signed a deal with the WWE. And according to Mysterio, he has signed a 2-year deal. And Rey has been trying to work out a 18-month deal. But this report suggests that he did get a clause inserted into the contract that will allow him to give his notice at 18 months should he still desire to do so. Very interesting. And the only thing left to figure out is where Rey is going to fit into the WWE storylines. Well, we last saw Rey at All In, but in WWE, we last saw him back in the Greatest Royal Rumble, which was to many a huge surprise, even though he was already rumored to have be a part of it. Even back then, I was keeping low profile when it comes to these rumors, and it was 50 guys. How many? I mean, where can you look for 50 guys besides your own roster? I mean, sure, they had a performance from NXT, which I thought was a great idea. But eventually, you're going to come across like, well, we know you've been working, but you're just not there yet. I'm pretty sure that's happened. And Mysterio, which I believe was also part of the, I guess, demands, if you will, but requests from the Saudi Arabian team that would like to see Rey Mysterio part of this Greatest Royal Rumble event. And they worked out a deal for one night only. And considering the reception that he had, not only during the live crowd, but back home here in the States, like, oh my God, they got Rey Mysterio back for this. Why isn't he still with them? Well, for the most part, he had previous committed appearances, such as All In, so that was one of the main reasons. But there was no deal. But now it's finally official, for at least for a 2-year deal, having that 18-month notice should he choose to leave the WWE. But interesting to know how and where Rey will end up. Either Raw or SmackDown. If I gotta give a prediction here, I would say Raw. He did SmackDown when he first debuted. There was that back and forth nonsense after a couple of drafts and shakeups that rarely stuck to their guns because people would jump over anyway. So as far as this newest or latest run for Rey, I say have him debut on Raw. More than likely heading towards Survivor Series. It's right around the corner. Or maybe a surprise appearance yet again at Super Showdown. Or, matter of fact, SmackDown 1000, that's coming up too. So there are a lot of options there, especially in the month of October alone. Where exactly you want Rey to debut? Well, at any point, I guess. But should be exciting to see. And speaking of SmackDown 1000, could SmackDown 1000 mark the return of some of the Blue Brand's biggest stars of the past? Well, if you heard exactly what I just asked there, who else but WWE.com talks like that? Well, I know the website doesn't actually talk to you, but when it comes to the type of vocabulary used here, like, yeah, that sounds like something WWE.com would ask. Well, they put out potential dream matches, not that they're saying that's going to happen, but one of those what ifs just to get the fans excited for the upcoming SmackDown 1000 episode. So they're hyping it up this way and posted a very interesting story on their Facebook page and teased a number of dream matches pitting current wrestlers against stars from the past. And these are just a few ideas. And personally, I would love to see all of them. So here we go. Daniel Bryan versus Kurt Angle. We got a piece of them back at the Greatest Royal Rumble there. I'm plugging Greatest Royal Rumble like crazy today. But we did get a little hint of how it would be Angle versus Daniel Bryan. Also, speaking of, Rey Mysterio taking on WWE Champion AJ Styles. Possible, and we'll definitely love to see it. Michelle McCool facing off against Charlotte Flair. The Bar against the APA, but I'm not sure about Farouk, honestly. Bradshaw can make his return at the drop of a dime, I believe. But as far as Farouk goes, I really don't know what his status is right now. But again, these are just dream matches and what-if scenarios. And then finally, we have Samoa Joe taking on Dave Bautista. I would definitely love to see that, but Dave hasn't been invited, according to him on Twitter. I mean, there's still some time left, but again, I think it would more depend also on Dave's schedule because right now he's promoting Final Score, his latest movie with Pierce Brosnan. I believe he's currently in Europe right now, and There's no release date, at least on the, out here in the States, no release date on that movie. But I haven't seen any promotion work as well. I did see the trailer. It's reminiscing of Jean-Claude Van Damme's Sudden Impact, but in a bigger venue, in a bigger sports arena, which I believe they were playing soccer, if I remember. I only saw the trailer once, and I thought it was really, really exciting. And Batista basically has to save an entire stadium of people from this renegade group. So seemed very interesting. I'll definitely give it a look. I made mention of a few superstars post All In that WWE were looking at for maybe signing them. Some interest there. Two names for sure that came across the attention of WWE were Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix. Now, this story came out shortly after the idea or the speculation that a deal would be offered. But Phoenix and Pentagon are not signing with WWE, as it was heavily rumored that the two would be headed to the company. But the reports notes that the two superstars are still locked into a no-compete detail under their Lucha Underground agreements until 2020. And they would appear on the 5th season if the show gets picked up for an additional season on the El Rey network. All this according to PW Insider, by the way, as both Pentagon and Phoenix both entered into negotiations with Impact Wrestling for a new agreement, including a pay increase for dates next year. The meeting was said to have been taking place during Impact's TV tapings in Mexico City last week. And additionally, the Lucha Brothers have agreed to a number of dates with MLW in 2019. And they will also continue to work dates with AAA and CMLL, as well as independent wrestling promotions in North America, such as the AAW in the Midwest and Northeast Wrestling, or the NEW, in the tri-state area up northeast, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, that area. And finally, it was noted that the Masked Republic have been working with the brothers on a former trademark of their Lucha Brothers name. Formal registrations of the mark have been completed, and merchandise of the two would include shirts, hats, and costumes. They also are featured in MR's new Luchaverse comic book series. So, Luchaverse, obviously, is mentioned as a comic book. For those who don't know, it's basically their counterpart to Marvel Comics or DC Comics, MR, for that for that little tidbit. But I'm happy and sad at the same time, because when you have popular superstars just like Phoenix and Pentagon Jr. or Pentagon Dark, whatever you want to call them, it becomes. I don't know. I mentioned this. This happens even to their own NXT stars when they're called up to the main roster. Not so much getting lost in the shuffle, but you bring them up. Okay, great. You got them under your roster, and after a few weeks, it's like they get lost in the shuffle. I mean, look at Lashley. Made such a huge return, a huge impact post WrestleMania this year, and had barely a cup of coffee in the title run picture with Roman Reigns, and then just back to the line you go. So I'm just really concerned if and when Pentagon and Phoenix ever show up on WWE, more than likely join the 205 Live roster, or even NXT. I say, and I keep saying this, I can't stress this enough. If the option is available, I say, hey, Vince, Patterson, whoever's running talent relations right now, Triple H, and I know he's kind of like the segue guy there, to say, hey, man, Vince is thinking of calling you up. And I hope the option is there, or the opportunity to say, that sounds nice and everything. I like the guy, but I'd rather stay here in NXT. If all possible, end my career with NXT. And that's it. I mean, you see what happened with previous superstars that were called up. A lot of them. Not all, but a lot of them. There are a few exceptions. And even if they're all long-term plans, between now and then, they're doing very little to keep interest in them. And that could affect them at the same time. So at times like this is where I believe the cop-out response from Bruce Pritchard comes in. Well, then you go out there and run your own multi-million-dollar company and this and that. Okay, you can't always use that as a cop-out. I mean, it doesn't always come down to, though I have to run. I was never in their shoes. I don't know the business from the inside. True, I don't, and I'll be the first to admit that. But when common sense is in play and logic, they're conflicting with each other, and because one person's they don't know what they want. They don't know. They don't want to see this. They don't want to say that. You can't stand behind that logic because you don't know exactly what I'm thinking. Personally, when a group of people, thousands if not more, are chanting in unison, like, you suck, you boring. Like, they don't know what they want. No, you don't. That being said, when you say that they don't know what they want, like, well, you don't know that. It's kind of like the Thanos theory that, the universe is such imbalance that, let me just kill half of them and then they'll balance each other out. Like, no, you don't know that. And it's true. You don't know that. You can't for sure prove that, and sure as hell can't follow it, because there have been plenty of times where they were forced to go against their own word or their own logic. Or like, okay, well, it's not working out. And then plenty of occasions. Too many to get into right now, but history has proven and shown that. And I still think I know I've seen it. Fandango and Tyler Breeze, Asuka, oh my goodness, Asuka and Shinsuke Nakamura, who both won their Royal Rumbles respectively. But in the beginning of this year, Shinsuke has shown some light, sure, but during that whole feud with AJ Styles and the WWE title, why was it never considered for Shinsuke to run with the championship for a little while? I mean, okay, the idea is like, no, we're trying to get AJ Styles. AJ Styles has been over heel or face. Made him a champion again. Feuded with Rusev for a cup of coffee. Now he's with Samoa Joe, which I think should have been the initial rivalry back then, even before SummerSlam. But okay, as a complimentary prize, Shinsuke, here's the United States title, and have a good run with it. Which I'm hoping that towards the end of his title run, we'll see him change back to babyface. But I think they've changed him way too much, and be very difficult to get back to the Shinsuke of old, for if you will, with the audience singing along with his music and getting behind every single movie that he's performed. But we shall see. But at least Shinsuke shut down that rumor as well about leaving WWE to go back to New Japan. Like, no, he's sticking around. He made that clear a few weeks ago. Bit of it's not sad news, but definitely a fall from grace. Sunny, or Tammy Cinch, depending on what you want to call her, is supposedly set to be paroled from the Carbon County Corrections Facility in Pennsylvania, where she's currently being held, as Cinch has been incarcerated for around 7 months after being moved from Monmouth County Corrections Facility in New Jersey, after being arrested for 2 missed court appearances stemming from DUI arrests. So Sunny, before this, either she's in trouble with the law or she's not. When she's not in trouble, she's doing her private Skype chats or one-woman shows, and depending how much you pay for, you get to talk, not only talk with Sunny, but interact with her as well, as she does more than a striptease on her end. And it's all, how do I know? It's all in her book. Not to mention, she's put out she shared a few stories out there on the internet as well, that basically her bedroom is her office, and that's how she makes money, at least recently, before she eventually got arrested. But Hall of Famer, I know many have said it, and I know they said it more than one occasion, and I'm going to share my voice as well. I really hope she gets her shit together. There's only so many second chances you can give to a person, and the last time I saw her was about a year ago in New York for the big event, and I was very fortunate to work with her along with Santana Garrett. They were both with the Wrestling Universe Vendors Table. Jeez. But at the time, Sonya was a little bit under the weather, but pulled it off where she was posing with pictures with the fans and signing autographs. So it was really cool. And it's still not my position to say, Sonya, get your shit together, because I don't know her personally, nor does she know me, and I doubt she even care. But as a fan, yeah, I really do. I really hope for that. But we'll see how things work out. If and when she ever does get paroled, and she'll be under strict observation for some time. Hopefully not too much, because if she's planning to go back into her one woman show on her Skype account, I don't know if you can put that on the report as far as the parole officer, like, well, she's been seen in nightgowns or whatever. I doubt that, but good luck, Sonny. And again, get your stuff together. So here we are. I mentioned about WWE Crown Jewel being held in Saudi Arabia. That's going to include a WWE World Cup tournament. It's pretty much a rehash of what's been said so far on WWE TV, along with the Triple Threat Universal Championship match between Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, and Braun Strowman. But I say rehash as far as the announcement made originally for the Greatest Royal Rumble. All we have right now is that one Triple Threat match. And in case you're wondering, I'm not covering Hell in a Cell here, is because I put up a separate review on my YouTube channel just hours after the event went off the air. Had my thoughts and review there of this year's Hell in a Cell match between Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns, and the surprise return of Brock Lesnar, who's lost all but, I'll say, 80 pounds. The man slimmed down tremendously ever since re-entering the USADA testing pool, and he looks great, despite what other people are saying. Like he's like a shrinky dink, but he looks great. Still in shape, still a big man, and where there's money to be made, you damn well know that Lesnar will probably jump at the opportunity. And being a Saudi Arabian show, like it was at the other one, Greatest Royal Rumble, Lesnar is said to be making at least a 7-figure deal, similar to what Shawn Micheals may make at the same show in his tag team match for Crown Jewel, Triple H and Shawn versus Kane and The Undertaker. So, the where, why, how, but not the who, have been answered as far as this World Cup tournament is concerned. Now, here's my personal take. If it doesn't involve non-WWE talent, even if it was just a one-off appearance for any of them, then this tournament is total bullshit. It will be. And I know they're not going to keep it in, what's the saying here, where you have consistent pay-per-views in a row, and they always correspond with the previous one. And I guess you can put off, or matter of fact, you can even separate. And I think that's what they're trying to do, is have these shows separate, be apart in some lore, but the overall picture would be separate. Where if it didn't happen in the States in WWE, then it didn't happen at all. Kind of like I guess you could look at this as a very large, expensive house show in Saudi Arabia, where it's just nothing but WWE talent competing in this World Cup tournament, which Vince McMahon hates, apparently, according to Bruce Pritchard. But again, money talks. You're going to have this tournament one way or another, and it's all WWE guys. Then it's not. Then don't call it a World Cup. Don't call it that. Call it again. Have Braun Strowman defend that Greatest Royal Rumble championship or something, or come up with a new concept and create a new championship belt in the spirit of the Saudi Arabian location, and some kind of I don't know, it's just some mock title, some mock trophy. But calling it a World Cup, just like the baseball, I mean, it suggests multiple talents from around the world that all either live or from the United States Yeah, I remember that one time. This was decades ago. Like, why is baseball calling it the World Cup? And then it's kind of how we got the World Baseball Classic concept from it. So it worked out for everybody. But in this case, I don't know. I guess I still like to keep it kayfabe, where an event is subsequently being called World Cup. Then I'm expecting talent from around the world, especially ones we've never seen before in WWE. I guess you can't make everyone happy. That's fine. Speaking of which, Brock Lesnar making his return here. According to Dave Meltzer, Lesnar is expected to earn well into the seven figures for what is anticipated to be his next match for WWE's planned show in Saudi Arabia on November 2nd, as Lesnar made his return at last Sunday's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, where he laid out Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman to ensure that their championship match ended in a no contest. This is so full of shit. A Hell in a Cell match ending in a no contest. A match where there's no rules is a no contest, but I digress. In terms of the Saudi Arabia event, however, it's believed that the WWE received around $45 million for the first show in Jeddah earlier this year, that being the Greatest Royal Rumble again, which is likely how and why they're able to pay for the likes of a Brock Lesnar that kind of money. Again, this is all from Dave Meltzer. If Lesnar does compete again in Saudi Arabia, it will likely be a title match against Roman Reigns and or both Braun Strowman and Reigns for the Universal title. Well, that was officially made back in this past Monday night on Raw, where Lesnar put out this report shortly after Lesnar's return at Hell in a Cell. So he's up to par despite all the flack he gets. So, I mean, I think Meltzer gets a tad more hits than he gets misses when it comes to these rumors or innuendos or whatever. I don't want to start getting into that slogan now. But, yeah, that's exactly what happened. And more than likely is what's going to happen. And everyone's going to take that long trip of, 15, 20-hour flight to Saudi Arabia. And who knows? They can pull an ultimate, I guess swerve would be the proper word here. It's been thrown around so many times throughout the years. But there's still time between now and whenever, sometime in late January, the USADA testing pool expires for Brock Lesnar. So between now and then, maybe even towards Royal Rumble, they can literally put the title back on Lesnar just for the sake of doing it. And giving the big middle finger to the fans, like, oh, he's going to hold the title hostage again and defend it at the Rumble and drop it to whomever, more than likely Roman Reigns again, or Strowman, who knows. And I think, didn't they have a triple threat match at the Rumble already? So, I mean, it's not far-fetched, and I hope I didn't give him that idea if they haven't already. But I could see that. And for what it's worth, I'll be okay with it. Again, just to give the impression, like, wait a minute, aren't you going to UFC? And how the hell can you go to UFC with that title, having dropped it? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. It's all part of the deal. It's all part of the story. You just got to stay tuned and watch. Well, if these ratings keep dropping, then no one's going to end up watching. Hey, Chile, South America. If you or anyone that you know is interested, the WWE has announced that they will be holding their first ever superstar tryouts in Chile in December. So if you got the passion, you got the dream, you got the work ethic, then I will sign up for this. Definitely. And for those who are attending and for those who are passing on the word, for those to attend, good luck. Travis Orndorff, the son of Hall of Famer Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful, created a GoFundMe page for his famously heel father in hopes to raise at least $10,000 to save his home. And I was so heartbroken about this. But good news is wrestling fans and colleagues sure came to for Orndorff, and within a week, the goal was reached. And Travis later on shared, to say that I am overwhelmed by the outpouring of support and love and kind words is an understatement. More than any penny donated, the comments that you have posted have brought sheer joy to my father, and I will post a video of my father soon, heading to see him tomorrow. This was earlier in the week, and yeah, man, I really hate to see this. You really think that these former superstars are being taken care of, whether or not they're under contract with the Legends deal with WWE or with whomever. But, you know, it's not always the case. And time does catch up to you. Even the greatest of them all would fall in, not that he was in the exact situation, but look at Hulk Hogan and what happened with him, with his family after that divorce. It was just ugly from start to finish. And eventually worked his way back up. So he's doing pretty well. He's got that NWO Too Sweet reunion tour. And if you haven't already, look up the price tags for some of these tickets. I think the ultimate package, I believe, is you spend some time with all three members, Hogan, Hall, and Nash. Get a private hangout, as they call it. Get to sit during the Q&A session at a private bar. Obviously, you get the pictures opportunity and only one autograph per item. And if you want more stuff autographed, you got to pay extra. But point being, all that stuff, which sounds pretty good, about $2,000. So, and the crazy part is there will be fans who actually pay for that. There goes that entire family vacation going on. Up $2,000 to meet Hogan, Hall, and Nash for this, hopefully, more than one time reunion tour. And that, if successful, the next one will probably have more former members of the NWO. But we shall see. Oh, my goodness, so much. That's too much to bear. Well, that's all I have for you this week. And I hope you enjoyed what you heard. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for staying with me up to this point. And if you want to be notified, like everyone else has been doing here on YouTube, click on that iconic bell to be notified when my next story goes up. Still trying to get back to the flow of things. I'm within, I would say, maybe the next couple of weeks, if not sooner, on finishing up my documentary on WXW. I, of course, would have to, once it's said and done, present it to them at the Samoans Training Center in Mineola, and get their take on it. And if they give me the okay, then I will share it with the world. That's just how it works. As in the media business, you do have to sign a basically release form, and basically indicates that I will not share such work without their permission, because it has their likenesses, it has a lot of behind the scenes stuff. They share intimate stories, whether you heard them or not, but, it's their take, it's them on camera, they being the family of Alpha, or Wani in this case, and some of their students. So I would have to get the okay. And I'll let you guys know regardless of if and when I can share it. And hopefully you guys will like it. Again, it's in the finishing touches. Matter of fact, once I get off here, I'm going to work on it some more and figure out an intro and an outro for it. Which is not always easy. But again, thank you for joining me. Like this video if you like what you heard, actually. And leave a comment down below. So until next time, everyone be safe. Special shout outs and best well wishes go out to everyone affected by Hurricane Florence, who unfortunately is hanging around still, causing a lot of havoc with floods and damages to the area. But hang in there, guys. I know you will see it through. And to everyone, again, enjoy the upcoming week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And until next time, this is Good Old JM.